Mirrors, reflections of reality, or gateways to something sinister? Let's find out. It was a cold, quiet night when Emily moved into her new apartment. Drawn by its charm, old hardwood floors, vintage fixtures, and an eerie, antique mirror hanging in the hallway. The landlord said it came with the place, a part of the building's history. Emily didn't think much of it. That first night she unpacked, settling into her new home. As midnight approached, she noticed something strange. Every time she passed the mirror, her reflection seemed off, delayed, almost like it was watching her when she wasn't looking. She shrugged it off, as her imagination, after all, moving was stressful. Around 3 a.m., a faint sound woke her, a whisper. Groggy, she walked to the hallway, rubbing her eyes, and glanced at the mirror. Her reflection was there, standing still, but something was wrong. The eyes, its eyes, weren't hers, darker, hollow, almost malicious. Emily stepped closer, heart pounding. Then the reflection moved. Not with her, but on its own. Slowly, it raised a hand and pressed it against the inside of the glass, leaving a faint, foggy imprint. Frozen, Emily watched as the reflection began to smile, wide, too wide, teeth sharp and twisted. It mouthed the words, "Let me out." Before she could react, a loud crack echoed, and the mirror's surface splintered. A long, pale arm reached through the jagged glass, grasping at the air. Emily screamed and ran, slamming her bedroom door shut behind her. The next morning, the mirror hung perfectly in the hallway, pristine, no sign of cracks or the creature. But from that day forward, whenever she passed by it, she could feel it watching, waiting, biding its time for another night when she wasn't quick enough to look away. Days turned into weeks, and Emily tried to settle into her new life. She made friends with her neighbors, decorated her apartment, and even started a new job. But the mirror's presence was always in the back of her mind. One evening, she mentioned the mirror to her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who had lived in the building for decades. Mrs. Thompson's face grew serious. "That mirror has been here longer than anyone can remember," she said. "Some say it's cursed. Others say it's a portal to another world." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. She had always been a skeptic, but the events of that night were hard to dismiss. Determined to find answers, Emily began researching the history of the building and the mirror. She spent hours in the local library poring over old newspapers and documents. She discovered that the building had a dark past. It was once a boarding house, and there were stories of strange occurrences and disappearances. One story in particular caught her attention. It was about a woman named Margaret who had lived in the building in the early 1900s. She was said to have been obsessed with the mirror, spending hours staring into it. According to the legend, Margaret claimed that the mirror showed her visions of another world, a world where she could be with her lost love. One night she vanished without a trace, and the mirror was found shattered. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was a connection between Margaret's story and her own experiences. She decided to dig deeper. She found an old journal that had belonged to Margaret. The entries were filled with descriptions of her visions and her growing obsession with the mirror. One entry stood out. It described a ritual that Margaret believed would allow her to cross into the other world. It involved lighting candles, reciting an incantation, and staring into the mirror at midnight. Emily knew it was risky, but she felt compelled to try the ritual. She needed to know if there was any truth to Margaret's claims. That night she lit the candles and recited the incantation. As she stared into the mirror, she felt a strange sensation, as if she were being pulled into the glass. The reflection in the mirror began to change. It showed a world that was both familiar and alien, a twisted version of her own reality. She saw Margaret standing in the other world, reaching out to her. Emily felt a surge of fear and excitement. She reached out her hand, and for a moment their fingers touched. Suddenly the mirror shattered, and Emily was thrown back. She lay on the floor, gasping for breath, surrounded by shards of glass. The next morning the mirror was whole again, as if nothing had happened. But Emily knew that something had changed. She could feel it in the air, in the way the shadows seemed to move. She realized that the mirror was not just a reflection of reality, but a gateway to another world. A world that was waiting for her, watching her and biding its time. Emily knew that she had to be careful. The mirror was a powerful and dangerous object, and she had to find a way to protect herself from its influence. She continued her research, looking for ways to break the mirror's hold on her. She found references to ancient rituals and protective charms, and she began to gather the materials she needed. Emily knew that it would not be easy, but she was determined to fight back. She would not let the mirror control her life. The Midnight Mirror had shown her a glimpse of another world, but it had also shown her the strength within herself. She was ready to face whatever came next. The haunting tale of the Midnight Mirror was far from over, but Emily was no longer afraid. She knew that she had the power to shape her own destiny, and she would not let the mirror's darkness consume her. The Midnight Mirror. A haunting tale, a story of fear, courage, and the unknown. What would you do if you found yourself staring into the depths of another world? Would you have the strength to face it, or would you be consumed by its darkness? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The Midnight Mirror will always be watching, waiting, and ready to reveal its secrets to those who dare to look.